So students, next disease that we will be discussing is influenza. Influenza, you are aware with respect to another common word, flu. Definitely you would have heard this word, and it is a viral disease. So basically influenza virus is there, and this virus is responsible for the influenza disease, and there are three major types that we can see, that we can categorize this virus. It is type A, type B and type C. The most important thing here is that type A virus is only responsible for the spread of the disease in the animals. However, all the types are responsible for spreading disease in the humans, but with respect to animals, it is only type A. Which animals are we talking about? Most commonly, it is seen in birds and swine. If I say swine, word is for female pig. The pigs, in these pigs and in birds, we generally see influenza. Okay, so influenza virus, we need to understand that it can happen to humans also, it can happen to animals also, but type A only is the one which happens to animals. So students, what about type B and type C? You can see here that type C is mild and non-epidemic. However, type B can be sometimes occasionally very harmful. Now, I want to tell you something else. There is a terminology how we explain these type of viruses. The terminology includes two alphabets, that is H and N. So I hope you all are very much aware of H1 and N1 virus. Remember, in 2015-16 it was very much in news, and that is why UPSC asked this question in the 2015 year. Okay, it's one of the previous year question now, and you can see that such type of questions are directly asked. I will show you the question very soon, but let's look what this H and N actually means. So H and N means some kind of surface proteins. These are surface proteins of the virus actually. H means hemagglutinin. So this name of the protein is hemagglutinin, and N means neuraminidase protein. So it's basically an enzyme. So these particular proteins are actually seen, and on the basis of the varieties of such proteins, there are various types like H1, H2, H3 or H5, H7 and H9. What is this H? H means a special kind of protein. I've already told you what is H. So there are different types, subtypes of such proteins, on the basis of which there is a numbering that has been given to it. If we talk about H1, H2 and H3 types, these are the types that actually affects the swine. And if we talk about H5, H7 and H9, these are the types that actually affects the birds. So avian influenza, the term avian flu or bird flu, this is avian word is also used for birds. Okay students, so these are the classifications. If somehow tomorrow a question being asked on these type of terminologies, you will be able to answer them. Okay students, now let us move further. What I want to tell you, that if we take some examples like H5N1, like H7N9, now you are aware that we are talking about bird flu, avian flu. Okay, and if one of the examples that can be seen as a very much pathogenic in nature and very much causing harmful impact to the poultry industry, it is H5N1 influenza virus. So this is avian influenza, we know H5 for bird flu. This is very much contagious, highly pathogenic, and in Asia it is one of the deadly viruses for poultry industry. One thing also I want to tell you here, that there is an economic impact also. There is an economic impact also if such flu or viruses impact the poultry industry. You know, there will be loss in this industry because people will be reluctant in buying chicken and poultry eggs. So in that case, that economic impact can be seen if such kind of a flu or viruses, they spread from one place to another. So this is definitely not desirable. because many people lose their economic aspect, their financial losses are here, and India or any country would definitely try that if such industry should not be impacted, and there is a role particularly for government, for officials to take care that such a spread do not occur, because if that happens, so then many of the chickens, to reduce the impact of the disease, many of the chickens, what happens to them, the culling of the organisms has to be done. Culling of these chicks was or is done. Okay. Moving further, what is the status of India with respect to this particular disease? So in 2019, what India declared that it declared itself to be avian influenza H5N1 free. Now such kind of news comes in, and you will think that India is now completely fully free or eradicated with respect to avian influenza, but that is not true. It is only this type of variant that we are declared free, not the other types. So such kind of news, if they come tomorrow, do not take it for granted. Just ensure that whether you are aware that which type or which variant we are talking about. As a aspirant, now you have a very much fair idea what this H and N means. Okay, students. The organization which is responsible for giving the certificate is World Organization for Animals, and recently also in 2021 January, H5N8 was very much an outbreak situation in India. It was very much there in the news, so have a fair idea about such diseases because they generally asked in the examination. So this is overall about the topic influenza. Now I want you to focus here on two more diseases. One is smallpox and another is rinderpest. So students, smallpox and rinderpest, they both are first of all viral diseases, and they both have been successfully eradicated, and that too globally. So not just in India, they are eradicated globally, right? 1980 smallpox and 2011 rinderpest. Smallpox is related to the humans, and rinderpest is a particular kind of a viral disease which spreads in cattle and buffalo. So this question was already asked in the previous year, so you must be aware. Okay, this was in news, so it was asked. Let's look at the question, some of the questions here. 2014 question, let's look at this question first. The question here gives you three types of diseases, and it asks you whether these diseases are eradicated in India or not. So not globally, but in India specifically it is asking you. So students, this kind of a question, I feel that you cannot cram which diseases are eradicated and which are not. You cannot cram it. It is also some of your general awareness, what you are aware of. So as I told you, smallpox is completely eradicated, right? So if it is globally eradicated, it simply means it is eradicated in India also. So 3 has to come. If 3 has to come, these two options are correct, and A and D cannot be your answer. Now look at the other options. Maybe you are not aware of this option, but let us look at the other options. You can see chicken pox. It is very general. Children, sometimes kids, adults also, they have some kind of pox on their face, hands, on the body, and this is very general. Once in a lifetime, in the developing nations, some of us have gone through already in the past chickenpox issues and problems, and it's still prevalent in our society in India. Diphtheria also, it is also not eradicated, so answer to the question is only 3. So if you have a fair idea about these topics, and if something comes up in current affairs, so that becomes your part of the syllabus also, and high chances are there that the questions can come out of this portion as well. Let's discuss H1N1 virus. I told you this question was asked in 2015, and a very easy question, because in 2016-17 we were totally aware about H1N1 virus, but 2015 it was quite new, and aspirants sitting in the examination hall would wonder that what H and N means. So students, it was asked simply that in news, it also mentioned the word here news, that in news with reference to this particular word, which of the following diseases we are mentioning here. And it gave you, UPSC gave you 4 options. So now you know the answer is swine flu, but it was a good question for those aspirants that do not prepare current affairs well, or do not focus on the diseases aspect of the science and technology. Definitely diseases, this topic which I am teaching you here, it will give you good marks, not just 2 to 3 marks and 2 to 4 marks in prelims examination, but also good examples in your mains. I have already told you. So let's focus on another topic. I've already discussed diseases with respect to bacteria. I've already discussed diseases with respect to viruses. Now I want you to focus on another topic, and that is vectors. Right, students? Vectors. So what are vectors? I've already told you these are the organisms which are responsible for the spread of the disease. Spread of disease. Right? So I also gave you the example of malaria and how mosquito, female Anopheles mosquito, is responsible for it. I will teach you 2 to 3 examples here because they are very important, and we will see malaria topic also upfront. So lymphatic filariasis is the first disease. First disease that we will be discussing here is lymphatic filariasis. Now look at this word, filariasis. It has been derived from a word called as filarial parasite. So which of the following organism or parasite responsible for the spread, responsible for the cause of the disease, not the spread but the cause of the disease? It is filarial worm. So this is the worm, this is the photograph of the worm, and the scientific name of the worm is Wuchereria. So Wuchereria bancrofti is the scientific name of this particular worm. So if you do not remember it, it's fine, but at least remember the name of the worm, filarial worm. Okay. The most important aspect of this particular disease is that a human, individual, if it infects a human, so an individual, his or her legs, you can see the legs, it is totally swollen up, and swelling is there, and it seems that the swelling is such that the person foot or leg is looking like an elephant's foot, right? And henceforth the name of the disease, the common name of the disease is elephantiasis. So you can see here hathi pav. In Hindi you will say it hathi pav, and in English you will say it is elephantiasis. It is out of the animal elephant that the name of the disease is given, because the foot is swelling as such to look like a elephant's leg. Okay students, the particular mosquito responsible for the spread of the disease is Culex mosquito. This is the name of the mosquito. Another mosquito can be Aedes mosquito. This can be another mosquito. So what are the vectors here? What are the vectors that we are talking about? We are talking about Culex mosquito and Aedes mosquito as vectors, because they are spreading the disease. Now the point here is, sir, if you will ask me that, sir, why it is called as lymphatic as such? Filariasis I understood, and it is because of the filarial worm, but why lymphatic? So listen to me students, there is a fluid called as lymph, and just like blood in our body, it's moving in vessels. Lymph is also running in our body in vessels called as lymphatic vessels. Lymphatic vessels. So this is not red in color, this is colorless fluid. It is colorless or pale yellow in color. And students, this particular lymph, it flows through vessels, and within our body there are some lymph nodes. There are some nodes, interconnections, and within these nodes WBCs are present, white blood corpuscles, and they help us in fighting against the infections. WBCs are also called as soldiers of the body. Alright students, so I will be explaining the components of the blood in the subsequent lectures of general biology. But lymph nodes, these nodes are present throughout the body. Lymph as a fluid helps in eliminating the waste. It also contains WBCs which fight against the infection. So this I have already told you. In these nodes, what happens is, if the infection of this particular filarial worm occurs, you can see here in this particular photograph, the infection of the filarial worm in the lymph nodes, if it occurs, then this will lead to the accumulation of the lymph in the body. And if the lymph particular fluid is getting accumulated, this kind of swelling will be seen. And henceforth the name of the disease, it's in itself called as lymphatic filariasis. So I hope now you understood the meaning also. And according to WHO, this is a very interesting fact here. According to WHO, if we talk about long-term disability and mental illness is at first position, So lymphatic filariasis is at second position. So you see the severity and the damage caused by this disease, that it is at the second most position in the cases of the infection after mental illness with respect to long term disability. And it is our responsibility in that case that such problem should be eliminated, and henceforth what government did, government has taken initiative, and that initiative was taken in 2015, and the initiative was Hathi Pav Mukt Bharat. So it's a health campaign, awareness campaign, that these particular mosquitoes, these vectors, they should not be we can prevent the disease, the spread of the disease, by eliminating and controlling such organisms, okay, their spread actually, in short. So this is the first particular disease that I wanted to discuss with respect to vectors. The vector here is Culex mosquito. Next particular disease is Kala Azar. So second is Kala Azar. Another name for Kala Azar is black fever or dum-dum fever, and it happens because of the protozoa, and this particular protozoa is called as Leishmania. So protozoa are group of organisms that come in the kingdom Protista. Protista I have already taught you. So from the very first lecture of general biology, you have already read about Protista. So Leishmania, because it is a cause of the disease, the name of the disease in itself is Leishmaniasis. Just like filariasis, filarial worm, you can remember it, Leishmania, Leishmaniasis. Easy, students. The point here is that after malaria, with respect to parasitic killer, after malaria, this particular organism, parasite, is the second biggest. Okay, and malaria I have already told you, there is a female Anopheles mosquito which is responsible for the spread of the disease. And when we talk about the parasite protozoa, it is Plasmodium. So we will discuss later on also, but you must know. Okay, here the vector is not mosquito actually, it is a sand fly. For Kala Azar, the transmission is occurring because of a vector, and the name of the vector is sand fly. So female sand fly is responsible for the spread of the disease. And if we talk about the global burden, India is taking share of 50%. So half of the global cases are present in India with respect to Kala Azar, and this is again a very serious problem. India must act on these particular communicable diseases and vectors which are responsible for the spread of the diseases. India must act accordingly. So if such kind of a question comes up tomorrow, that what are the challenges India is facing with respect to these communicable diseases, or in health sector, you can give these 2 to 3 little examples. Okay, students. Now I want you to understand the difference between two types of mosquito here. One is Anopheles mosquito and second is Aedes mosquito. And definitely you would say here, sir, we need to do this also. I mean, the standard of UPSC is such here that we need to understand mosquito also, and there are differences also what we are doing. See students, yes, we have to do this. I understand that we are going to a level which is very deep, and we do not know what UPSC can ask us tomorrow, because recently dengue is a very big issue. Currently in urban cities, dengue is a very big problem. It is one of the diseases which is spread by Aedes mosquito. And the problem here is that this particular mosquito, it is causing a lot of problem. So in 2020, I take one example that whether such kind of a question comes in the exam or not. In 2020 as such, UPSC asked about elephant, and that to the gestation period of elephant. So you see that if UPSC can ask the gestation period of an elephant, gestation period is that like humans have a development of the baby, it takes 9 months. So these 9 months will be called as a gestation period for humans. So similarly, what is the gestation period for elephant? This was a question. Why this question came up? Students may wonder why this question was even asked. The reason behind is that in 2019 and in 2020, what happened was many of the elephants, they were in current affair news. So this was one of the reasons that in Okavango Delta in Africa, many of the elephants, they were found dead. And later on, after a lot of investigation, the cause was known, but this was a very, very big news. So it is now your responsibility to check where the Okavango Delta is. Okay, students. And also in 2020 in Kerala, what happened in Kerala? That one of the elephants was given bomb for eating, and after that the bomb burst, and that particular out of toxins, basically that elephant was killed. So because of such news, such current affair scenarios, the question came up with respect to elephants in itself. So tomorrow a question can come up with the mosquitoes. Let's have a very quick differences between what is Anopheles mosquito and what does the Aedes mosquito actually look like, and how do they attack. So both are basically females, which are the responsible factors for spread of the disease. Anopheles mosquito spread malaria, and however Aedes mosquito spread chikungunya, where the joint pain occur, muscular pain occurs, lymphatic filariasis I have already told you, and dengue fever. Anopheles mosquito bites at night. However, in daytime, Aedes mosquito bites. So dengue, if it is caused, it is because of the mosquito which is biting at the daytime. Such kind of structure is there of that particular mosquito, where white patches can be seen throughout the body of the mosquito, and while biting or sucking the blood from a human, this particular mosquito, Anopheles mosquito, it stick its abdomen upward. So this is the slanting is the shape of the mosquito's body structure surface with respect to the surface. So we can see this. However, Aedes mosquito, it actually lies parallel to the surface of the individual or the body, and this is what we can see here. So it is parallel basically. Anopheles mosquito is spreading the disease in the rural areas. However, Aedes mosquito is spreading the disease in the urban areas. So that is why we are saying that many of the dengue problem or issue is seen in the urban areas. However, the cause of the disease dengue is virus only. So dengue virus is present in the mosquito, and whenever the mosquito bites, then the virus is getting into the human. The larva of the mosquito, it gets multiplied at a very rapid rate in the water bodies with respect to Anopheles mosquito. So that means ponds, lakes. These are the factors. That is why it is much more prevalent in the rural areas only. However, when we talk about Aedes mosquito, the larva is growing in the shallow water surfaces. What is shallow water? Having not much depth. The water is just accumulated in coolers, in tires, or maybe in the nearby fields. And that is why many of the adverse advisories are given to the people who are living in the urban areas, that please ensure that water is not accumulated in your nearby surrounding, or it may cause the Aedes, or it may cause the spread of the dengue because of the spread of the mosquito Aedes. Okay students, so this is simple awareness. You would have definitely heard about it. This is the overall comparison. I hope you have fair idea now about the particular disease dengue. You have fair idea with respect to the other vector causing diseases. Next is a very important disease, that is malaria. I will be discussing this particular disease. Malaria in an individual. What happens if a person is infected with the malaria, and malaria is their person is having this disease? So there will be phases of chills, that means fever, and then there will be a phase of sweating. Okay students, so these phases will come one after the another, and if somebody is suffering or facing these kind of things overnight, within a same night, then definitely that individual is having malaria. So the cause of the disease is by the particular organism. Name of the organism is Plasmodium. There are various species of Plasmodium. Plasmodium falciparum, Plasmodium ovale, Plasmodium vivax is also there, and many more. You need not to remember them. Okay, just remember the word Plasmodium. I have mentioned here in case it is asked. The infective stage at which this particular Plasmodium is attacking the individual is sporozoite. So this sporozoite will be present inside salivary glands of mosquito. So within the salivary glands of the mosquito, Plasmodium at an infective stage. What is sporozoite is? Infective stage. So this is the diagram. At this particular stage, Plasmodium is present in the salivary glands, and when the particular mosquito bites the human, this Plasmodium enters the body. So the Plasmodium here is, Plasmodium is a protozoa, again I am saying so, protozoan of the kingdom Protista. So this is basically the cause, and the spread of the disease is Anopheles mosquito, that too female Anopheles mosquito. So let me show you once how it happens. This is a mosquito, and that mosquito is trying to bite a human, and this is how it digs it particular sucker in the skin. And then what happens? Then what happens is it transmits. You can see in the photograph also, in the video also, that this particular organism, it is transmitting such, if you can just see here, such sporozoites into the bloodstream. Anyways, this Plasmodium here, if I talk about Plasmodium, it completes its life cycle in two hosts. One is primary host. I have already told you, this primary host is, host means that this organism will be present in the body of the host. The host here is Anopheles mosquito, and that too a female Anopheles mosquito. And there is a secondary host, and the secondary host here is human. Okay. So you see, when the particular mosquito having the infection of sporozoite, it bites a human, this will be first infected person. Then this Plasmodium will be going where? Into the liver cells, into the red blood cells, and here it will be doing what? It will be replicating via asexual mode of reproduction. What is asexual mode of reproduction? Where cells are just getting divided, okay, without the formation of the sex cells or gamete cells. Just like in female Anopheles mosquito, sexual reproduction occurs where gametes are formed. So male gamete is formed, gamete means sex cell, female gamete is formed, and then they fuse. The process is called as fertilization. This step is occurring in the mosquito. That is why it is called as primary host. However, in humans, the secondary host, we are saying them as secondary host because in the liver cells and the RBCs, the red blood cells, they are just getting multiplied. Okay. So this phase here is in humans, this phase in humans. And after humans, what will happen? If another mosquito that bites an infected person and then bites to a second person, the cycle will go on, and henceforth the disease will spread. So I hope you have a good knowledge about malaria as a disease. This is important. If such kind of a factual questions, statements are asked in the examination with respect to malaria, you must be ready to answer them. Now, with respect to the Malaria Day theme of 2020, you are aware that WHO endorses 4 particular days dedicated to the particular diseases. I have already told you in this video previously. So the theme of 2022 is harness innovation to reduce the malaria disease burden and save lives. So in any of your PCS exams, this particular kind of a theme can be asked, and it could be a potential question. And we are now seeing that malaria is also one of the causes for increasing mortality rates, right students? This is an interesting fact about it. Now I want to tell you something more about this particular disease, that how to treat it basically. So there is a drug called quinine, and this drug is obtained from bark of particular tree, and that tree is called as cinchona tree. So this is an important knowledge that you must know, that there is a drug for this particular malaria disease, and the drug is quinine. Okay, and cinchona tree, the bark means the outer layer of the tree, the dead part, the wood part of the tree. If we use and get the metabolites out of it, we get quinine, and that is very much helpful in eradicating or maybe reducing the impact of the disease. Okay students, so this is the news and this is all about the particular topic. I hope you are now fully aware of this particular topic. So if malaria is such a problem, what India is doing? Students, in East Asia Summit 2015, India pledged actually to eliminate the disease by 2030. So India is trying to eliminate the disease by 2030 and there is a special plan called as National Strategic Plan for Malaria. So how we are trying to do this? What we are trying to do this in this, students, we are going to categorize the states of India into three categories. One is low, second is moderate and third is high. So why we are saying that this particular categorization is required? Because there are some states where the cases of malaria are very low, some are moderate and some are high. So by 2022, the strategy was to eliminate the malaria cases and minimize the malaria cases in low and moderate category endemic states. And however, where the high burden of this particular disease is, what we will do, we will try to eradicate the problem by 2027. Now this is very unlikely that by the end of the year we will be able to do so. So this is a question mark, and the reason behind is the lockdown and all kind of schemes, government field work was disrupted. So definitely we will not be able to achieve it. So look forward after the year, what strategy, the change in the strategy will be there, that will be current affairs. But that is true that India is now trying to change its approach, and the approach is changing from controlling the malaria to eliminating it. So we are focused more on elimination of the disease rather than just controlling it. Okay students, so this is how we are saying that by 2027 there will be no more cases of the malaria, and after 3 years when there will be no cases, then by 2030 we will be receiving the certificate of malaria free country. Okay students, let's look at some questions here. I want you to know how such kind of questions comes in the exam. In 2016 the question was asked with respect to Zika virus. It was also in very much in news, and the question is that in tropical regions Zika virus disease transmitted by the same mosquito that transmits the dengue. So we talk about the mosquito and the name of the mosquito is Aedes mosquito. So this statement is actually true, and sexual transmission of Zika virus is also possible. So this was very much in research and it was true as well. So both the statements are correct, and henceforth the answer is both of the above. If this news was there with respect to the Zika virus current affairs, then dengue can be one of the potential questions for tomorrow. And COVID-19, UPSC is already asking questions about such kind of this disease. This is a very big problem for every of the country, nationally, internationally. It's an issue. 2021, in fact, in mains, UPSC asked about COVID-19 vaccine, and this is again a very important topic for each one of us. We'll do the topic definitely. Okay students, let me take you to another question. This is with respect to Ebola virus in 2015. So you can see in 2015 it also asked about H1N1, it asked about Ebola virus. So two questions are coming actually on the diseases directly. So we cannot ignore such questions. This question is very interesting actually. In this question, geography and biology, general biology is basically interrelated and connected, and it has been asked that Ebola outbreak has been seen frequently in news. What is the location and what are the regions where this particular disease has been seen? So if you are aware, it is an African nation. If you can actually just have a very basic fact about the disease, that it is spreading in the African nations, so you will have a fair idea about the geography also, because when we talk about Jamaica, Haiti, it is in Caribbean islands. So this is not the answer. Papua New Guinea is nearby Australia, so you know that if you know such location, then definitely this is also not the answer. And Syria and Jordan are not in Africa, so this is also not the answer, and the answer to the question is Guinea, Sierra Leone and Liberia. Okay, so these are the countries in which the Ebola virus was spreading. Okay, so have a fair idea of the location also, where like Wuhan, it was in news. Okay, And then there is something called there are other particular diseases also spreading in other regions. So what UPSC can do, it can ask you to align such places in news from north to south, east to west, and vice versa. So be prepared for such kind of questions. Also the questions may be coming on geographical locations, but the topic which you have read, that may be from the different subject altogether. Okay students, let's talk about another topic students. Instead of only talking about humans, I also want you to know about animal diseases also. And particularly I will be taking 3 diseases here, one for the birds and 2 for the animals, particularly cattle. So you see the disease name is foot and mouth disease. This disease occurs by virus. There is another disease called foot and mouth disease that happens to the children, but it is quite different from what we are talking here. So this particular disease happens to hoofed animals only. Okay, and hoofed animals are those, you can see that they have hoofs actually. Pigs, like cattle, buffalo, sheep, goat. So they have hoofs instead of fingers in the legs. They have hoofs actually in the forearms and hind limbs. So students, in these hoof animals, there are some patches or bristles that are seen over mouth and their legs and their foot. So these bristles, these patches, these particular wounds are seen, and this is why we can say that animals is suffering from foot and mouth disease. It is a viral disease, and most important fact here that you must know, it is not zoonotic. What are zoonotic diseases? What are zoonotic? That means the disease is spreading from animals to humans. So this is not zoonotic and it is rarely transmitting to humans. Very important fact. However, there is another example, that is brucellosis. This is basically a bacterial disease. So brucellosis, B and B, if you can remember, this would be easier way to know, remember it. Malta fever and Mediterranean fever are the another common name of this particular disease. It is spread by a bacteria and it is a zoonotic disease. So it is definitely going to be transmitted to the humans. It happens to cattle, it happens to sheep, goat, pig, and this kind of swelling in the legs, in the joints, it can be seen in the animal. So it will be very painful for an animal. And how it can happen? It can happen by consuming raw milk or meat. Very simple, basic things. This particular aspect I am telling you about these 2 diseases because they were very much in news, and recently government in 2019 and 20 it started a vaccine drive for these particular diseases in cattle. So that was a very big initiative by the government that 100% vaccination should be there for these particular diseases. So because of the scheme that is from related to your horticulture or livestock, this is due to these schemes I am teaching you this topic. So focus, I give you this as a homework and look ahead what was the scheme all about of vaccination drive for these particular diseases. Next topic, last topic also of this particular topic, general biology part 2, it's bird disease and the name is avian botulism. What is avian botulism? Actually what happened is, it is related to a news, and that news came up in 2019 actually, and the news was that 20,000 birds were actually found dead in the Sambar Lake in Rajasthan 2019. So you must know the location of Sambar Lake in Rajasthan, which districts are basically crossed by this particular lake. That is a geographical aspect of the particular topic. But what happened was that many of the birds, they were found dead, and after rigorous investigation, it was found that they were paralyzed and their nervous system was not functional, and that is why they died. And then a bacteria was found in the bodies, and the bacteria was Clostridium botulinum. Because of the name of the botulinum, the name of the disease is botulism. Okay, this particular bacteria, it is anaerobic in nature. It is also written underneath here, it is anaerobic. That means it doesn't require oxygen for its respiration. It secretes some kind of toxins, and it is very much resistant to heat. So if you see Summer Lake, high temperature would be there, but the bacteria is very much resistant to high temperature soil, and it is found in soil. And because of the particular bacteria in the lake. When the birds came for drinking water, they got infected by this particular disease, this particular bacteria, and then henceforth they got paralyzed. So this was in news. Remember, such kind of topics are obviously of very importance, not just with respect to environment but also for the science and tech topics also. I would like to end the topic with respect to a sustainable development goal, and that too, you know, sustainable development goals are very important. You mentioned these sustainable development goals in your mains answer also. So particularly 3 is with respect to health, and 3.3 sustainable development goal 3.3, what it says is end the epidemic of AIDS, malaria, TB and neglected tropical diseases. In addition, it also says eradicating the communicable and waterborne diseases. So students, I have given you this line. If you can use such phrase in your mains answer, in conclusion most of the time we use such phrases, it would be very good for you. Here we discussed about communicable diseases. In subsequent lectures, I will try to give you a short hint with respect to non-communicable diseases also, but this aspect of communicable diseases, it is very much asked in the exam. Do not take it for granted and be prepared with respect to these topics. Thank you so much, students.